Well, hello. I am DBJ. Welcome to this Demi Daily Deep Dive with your self appointed third pillarist. In today's Monster Monday, we're going to talk love, obsession, desire. Can we even use these things for your monsters? And the answer, of course, is yeah, of course you can. Um, Now, of course, this may not be appropriate for um, many of your mindless, rampaging, raging, animal intelligence monsters out there. But for those that have just the slightest bit um, of intelligence, tactics, motivations, you can absolutely use uh, love and obsession. Now, of course, your definition of what love and obsession is will vary, but these are monsters, especially for your fantasy, even for your science fiction games, um, modern day games. You can use these tactics. So let's pick a classic like a Medusa or uh, maybe even uh, maybe a pit fiend or an alien intelligence, illithids, something like that. Well, we can use love and obsession as a weapon against your player characters. All right, so well, how could we use love and obsession? Just imagine your players are have been harried by mobs of orcs, ogres, um, magic spells, and um, attacks have harried them over the past couple of sessions, and it's getting down to the point where they want to fight the big bad. And maybe your big bad, they're lower level characters, so your big bad is a Medusa. They confront the Medusa. Paladin wants to draw his sword, gets ready to slay the Medusa. The Medusa's shrouded. She doesn't want to turn the Paladin into a statue for her own liking, and admits, "Hey, I've loved you since the day you were born. I watched you from afar." Or, "I was the young girl that grew up with you, and I've been cursed, and I didn't know how to express my love, so I I uh, I turned myself over to a dark power to become this way." And then maybe the paladin, even if he slays her, he knows that, despite her desire, um, her motivations being twisted into evil, that she really did love him. Or we can go further because in the vampiric tradition, this is a common trope where the vampire prince falls in love with a woman who looks exactly like the woman he knew 500 years ago or something. But we can take this a little further by having machinations in the background, by having those individuals in your party become the focus of one or more um, evil presences and affecting the things around them. Now, in the beginning, this might be a good thing, almost like a warlock patron who hangs around in the background, um, pushing and moving things in the players' um, for the player's benefit. And this is probably the best way to introduce a love or obsessive NPC, because the player characters will not immediately want to, slay the mind lord, slay the lich, slay the fiend or the devil that is trying to help them out and affecting their presence in the game world. But as things go on, when the players make a slight comment like, I went to the tavern, but I didn't really like the drinks, and then come to find out that 16 people were slaughtered in a tavern because of this offhanded comment, that suddenly everything that the player character does now can ultimately lead to this horrible, um, violent, destructive path that's around them. Now, if the player characters are tend to be a little amoral, like, well, hey, who cares if they killed 16 people, or this evil presence is helping me and mine out in the background. What could happen is these evil and dangerous and terrible things happen, and then the player characters then become the individuals that are blamed for the machinations of a greater evil power. And so therefore you now can, instead of just, I draw my blade and kill it, or creature confronts you and you try to go after it, and it's just a dice slog where each person's trying to kill each other. Now you have another motivation for your evil character. Maybe they try to do everything they can to capture the player character, separate them from the group, trap them in a pit, hold them in a web, get them mind controlled, surround them in an illusion, put them into a wall of force, into a cage. They hire mercenaries and other evil creatures that have the ability to grab them, cave fishers and cloakers and um, all kinds of creatures where the player character is not physically trying to be harmed, but is trying to be separated, teleported, shrunk down, temporarily paralyzed, to be absconded away, to maybe a gilded cage, a dungeon with the greatest foods and entertainment and gold surrounding them, but they could never leave. It also leads to a great way for the game master to remove a player character from play, especially if that person cannot arrive at each game without them being killed outright. And it's a good excuse for, a game master to just not outright kill one of their player characters. Maybe the Medusa, the Pit Fiend, the Illithid, the Lich does not, the Vampire Lord does not want to kill the player character, but really just wants to you know, keep them as a museum piece, doesn't want them hurt, uh, wants them to be turned into um, an ephemeral piece of art to be used in their own museum of love and obsession, and wants to kill anything and anyone that tries to hurt them. Now, using this in a group can be kind of problematic, because if one player character is the focus of all the attention, the other player characters might get a little bit jealous, and you really don't want that. So this love and obsession could spread to the greater whole of the group, and you can use that as a method of an evil presence trying to um, obtain the party as like collect pieces in a chessboard. Now, some of you are viewers. If you don't mind, you can absolutely shoot me a question. Let me know if the sound and or uh, the video and audio is good for you guys. I'm trying something new here, trying to go live. It is 6 o'clock in the morning in the States here. So please forgive me if I'm a little bit hesitant. If you've seen any of my videos, you know that I kind of go off the cuff. And this is one of those things where, uh, a song title has sparked a couple of interesting ideas I thought that you can use to in for your monsters in your game. But anyway, to go on about the love and obsession, of course, if you're going to add obsession to evil creatures, they're going to twist it and turn it and make it something that is, they're going to modify it to account for their own strange, weird, motivational agenda. So maybe a Medusa is looking for a way to turn a PC into stone, but they want them to still be able to turn them back to flesh so that they can live with them, or turn them into stone, but allow them to move so that they can be uh, encapsulated into this perfect image that they see. Of course, you can go to the classic Vampire Lord and they want to turn another PC into a vampire. Now, love and obsession doesn't have to necessarily be sexualized. Um, for example, let's go back to the vampire lord. The vampire lord may have been, an honorable knight, a a a beacon of light and honor and justice, who turns itself into a vampire through various backstory methods, and sees another paladin or holy knight coming along and wants to recruit them into this um, greater, larger world. There's also the idea that someone's obsession may not be under their entire control. Um, hey, Prue Prue, train late for work? Dude, I get it. Or, yeah, I actually get it. Anyway, Prue Prue says, I actually have a thing here. One of my players gave me a great backstory for his fighter. His mother disappeared when he was a child, leaving his dad alone, and then it cuts off. And you know what? You could really take a backstory. I mean, someone's got like like an innocent backstory. Oh, there's the rest of the comment. She's going to be the baddie of the campaign. Absolutely. And what makes it even better when you use someone's like their parent, their child, their cousin, their brother that leaves in their backstory and then comes back into the world as this great presence, whether they're that's stalking. You're all right. Go, please go ahead. Who becomes this great, evil in the story, and you're like, how did this 0 level 2 hit point, NPC in my one line in my backstory become this grand, CR 15 5e creature? How did that happen? And then to have this person returned back in their life, whether it's their father or their cousin or their brother, and is saying like, please join me. I've watched you from afar. I love you. The things you're doing. You can even have an evil presence that's telling them, hey, what you're doing, you're going down the wrong path. Grave robbing, slaughtering orcs and things. That shouldn't be your path. You should join me and join me in a bigger fight. And now it's like you have this ability to yank and pull at the heartstrings of your player characters using love and obsession. Now I'm going to go back to something I said earlier about animal intelligence creatures not being very useful. I'm going to say I'm wrong about that. You could absolutely have the idea of a druidic circle wizard, sorcerer with a particular bloodline that becomes tracked, followed, sniffed out by some other kind of animalistic style creatures who have a strange attraction like catnip to this druid or something. And imagine, you have the dreaded wood with some kind of mutagenic, corruption in the woods, but the creatures are still trying to be, air quotes, friendly to the druids in the group. So owlbears, chimera, sphinxes, manticores, all of the strange, I guess they're devil dogs or death head dogs or whatever they're called, hellhounds, displacer beasts in your world might be mutated by something. And so when the player characters come towards civilization, maybe those creatures then come towards civilization in the hopes of being around the presence of this um, being of nature, this beacon of natural order, but they can't control um, their violent rages. So when the druid comes near the town, here comes a chimera swooping in, hoping to lick the druid on the face. And oh yeah, innocent people, you better watch out because my goat's head and dragon's head and my lion's head's pretty hungry if you try to, get me out of town. And then of course, here we go once again, blaming the player characters for something they really didn't have anything to do with. Now, of course, the player characters could say, well, we'll just avoid society while they're being, followed by this flock of aberrant creatures for some reason. but again, they may get blamed for something they didn't have anything to do with. So, um, pretty much that's really where I wanted to go. As far as obsession and such. Um, sends in another comment. I gave him a shield inherited from her side of the family. The two will find that they can't hurt each other as long as he holds it. I suspect it's going to be a fun meet. And that is a great twist, right? So you're saying like, and I'm using a Pru's uh, a comment here about the player character now has this artifact, this valuable item. In this regard, it's a shield, and that when he holds the shield, I mean, when she holds the shield, her uh, uh, father or brother or significant other cannot be hurt while the player character holds that item. And imagine, if you will, a the player character has a sword given to them by their relative, or they learn special magics from their family's uh, tribalistic ancestors or something, and come to find out that the magics that they use, the things that their special abilities now help this evil presence that is trying to recruit them to their side, right? So you have a wizard with a fireball, but the fireball could never hurt this adversary. Or you're a bard, but your bardic um, inspiration always helps the bad guy. And it could just be this one individual, and that's all it takes for them to go, Wait a minute, you mean as a cleric, all of my clerical vestments are actually helping the bad guy? What am I supposed to do? Is it in the rules? Hell no. It is it in your rules? Of course it is, if you decide to use it. So yeah, obsession can go a long way, especially if a player character says or does something that offends the bad guy, and they take it quite personally. Like, the Medusa's like, "Don't you find me beautiful?" And the player character's like, No, not with the green skin and the snakes, not really." And then the Medusa goes off on this rampage, like, "You don't find me beautiful," starts crying poisonous tears, and sends its pit of giant snakes out into the world and all that. You can really take and twist obsession. Look at your favorite movie and TV and tropes and books about um the femme fatale. The back in the 80s and 90s, you have um plenty of movies where the female feels offended, and she's going to make the guy's world a living hell. Well, you don't have to make it so on the nose, and love does not necessarily need to be gender specific. Like I mentioned before, with a vampire lord who wants to recruit the paladin, and the vampire used to be part of a paladin's order, you can absolutely have a brotherhood, people who are members of factions who have gone undercover. Take, for example, the Black Panther movie. In the Black Panther movie, Wakanda sent out agents into the world, spies, and maybe those spies are now being influenced by the regions that they are part of. And although their actions are, quote unquote, in antithesis to the party, they still want to recruit the player characters into what they are doing. You know, the the rogue who has been recruited, or has volunteered from a religious order and decided to go undercover into the humanoid lands, might start to feel something for the orcs and the bugbears and the ogres and the ettins that live there. And when the player characters come to meet this spy, this person who used to be part of this holy religious order might say, "Listen, it's not everything you think. I love my religious order and I want them to prosper and we can grow it here. but having a war with them is not the deal. You need to understand what they think and what they feel. Um, it's not, they don't consider it genocide. They don't consider raiding the human lands to be an evil thing. Maybe they just need food and protection. And you can twist and turn that so many ways, because is this person telling the truth? Have they been um um transformed by their presence, brainwashed into thinking this way? Or have they really seen these acts and they know a different perspective? And so, yes, love and obsession is an actual motivation you can use it, in your role playing games. Um, Prue Prue says, I love that kind of mind fuckery, both as a player and DM. Do you don't understand it? It can really pay off. And you know what? If you really can read the room, like, you throw it in there and then you see how they react to it, right? So you, as the DM, can kind of like turn the volume up and down. So on one hand, you have the situation where you throw in a loved one is feeling sympathy for the evil guy's side, or they are the one responsible for these evil acts. And when the player character is stunned, maybe you turn the volume up just a little bit, like, oh, by the way, the last three games, those all those evil things, that close to death period that you came to, yeah, that was my fault. Or turn the volume down if the player character is going like, I can't believe this person's so evil in my background. Turn the volume down a little bit. Maybe they're pretending to be this love struck, obsessive person to throw off maybe an even bigger bad. Um, Imagine a loved one that made a pact with an evil presence, and now they're a powerful warlock, and they became a warlock to save the life of the player character. And now they're trying to figure out how to get out of this warlock patron conundrum. They can't specifically tell the player character, because the warlock patron will just, or in their minds will feel that the warlock patron will just slaughter their friends, and the player characters. But on the other hand, maybe they need the help of the player characters, and so are on one hand challenging them, sending obstacles their way, but on the other hand, ensuring that they get powerful enough to take on the warlock patron, so that their loved one can escape the warlock patron's um, hold on them. All right, yeah, I know that kind of went around the world there, but love and obsession is a great way to have a social interactions with your player characters without them just immediately wanting to draw the sword, cut the throat of the bad guy or whatever. And also, even if that does happen, you're the game master, right? You're the dungeon master. You can always throw some more bad guys out there, and maybe they pay for it later on in their career. So, for example, the evil brother of one of the player characters goes off, becomes this evil warlord. The evil warlord says, "Join me." Player character doesn't think twice and says, "No, you're evil. I'm going to kill you." Or the opposite. The player character is pretty much an evil bastard, and the the evil brother turns good and joins this knighthood and says, "Join me. We can, rule this place with justice and honor." And the player character is evil and goes, "Nah, I'm just going to cut your throat." Well, what if this leads into a a deeper meaning, so that maybe the evil player character now is being hunted by this religious order, not to kill them, but to recruit them, to replace the person who has just, it's the reluctant hero now, and they're like, "Hey, yeah, I know you're evil, but we know there's good in you. You killed your brother, but your brother knew that you had this great, these great battle tactics, and this great strength of a spirit and honor inside of you, and his last words were, "We are not to kill you, we are to recruit you." And so the evil player character tries to do evil things, and these good people go around and start fixing everything. And that could be kind of a twist. But anyway, I'm kind of running out of ideas now. Just thanks, Prue. Yeah, yes, K gotta go. Great topic. Thanks for that comment, man. But I keep saying man, although Prue could be a nice young lady. So I don't really want to be too specific on that one. But thanks for the comments. Anyway, join in. I'm a DBJ. Hopefully, this will be kind of I call it my demi daily deep dive because um, I'm going to try to be on here in a daily matter. It's kind of difficult because I really do have to go to work. But anyway, um, just coming up with some ideas. I love throwing things out there for people to think about in their game, to add to their repertoire, like a little toolkit. Open up the toolkit, throw it in there. Love and obsession. Might want to use it, might not. Anyway, I'm DBJ. I am Davabrian Jackson. I am part of Critical Hit Publishing. I am contributing writer. My baby is the cinematic environs, where you use the third pillar. That's why I call myself the self-appointed third pillarist, where the environment itself becomes that thing that it's a great equalizer, whether it's rain or snow or heat or cliffs and flash floods and thunderstorms and heat waves and sand traps and all kinds of things. So using them in your game to add a little bit more dramatic tension. So anyway, I'm DBJ. I'm going to call this into the stream. Thank you very much for your time and your energy. Um, have a very good day.